y'all, it's Hope here at Crafty Hope, and I am here with another fun project. If you've ever ordered anything from my Crafty Hope Etsy shop, any of my jewelry, you've likely received one of these mixed media handmade thank you cards. I've had a lot of interest in how I make these, and since the season of thanks is upon us, with Thanksgiving approaching at the end of the month, I thought I'd show you real quick how I make some of these. So I'm going to gather my materials and come back here and get to show you how these are. To start the process of making my mixed media thank you cards, I'm using these. They're just postcards. I've fortunately found these, I don't even know how many years ago, at a thrift store. A big old box of it was $4 for a gazillion. I think it's 200, not a gazillion, postcards in a bunch of colors. And so that's what I'm using. Now, if you have just regular white cards or whatever, that will work fine. I have divided these up since I like using all the colors. I pulled out 2 of each color, and I'm going to just work with one set at a time. And so I'm getting those out, and then I have some stamps that say either thanks or thank you on it, but any other kind of sentiment of gratitude would work. This little set has a couple different sayings on it. I think it's a Heidi Swap set. I can't be sure of that, but I think so. And I'm going to use some Stays On stamp ink. I like the Stays On because it's permanent, and I'm not real sure how wet these will get, but because this is permanent, I don't have to worry about it smudging and getting messed up. So I'm just going to start with my Stays On and my stamps, and I'm just going to stamp in the middle of each card with the sentiment. Easy enough. And I'm using black ink because it'll go with anything, and I know it'll stand out on each of the cards, where if I'd gone with some other color, I might have to switch up ink in this process. Now that my cards have all been stamped with either thank you or thanks or whatever sentiment you want on there, I have pulled out my box of, this is just a big old container of scrap paper. It is all different kinds of things left over from die cuts and little snippets and whatever. And I am just going to take it and frame the thank you on here. I'm going to use my glue stick. I may have to pull out maybe some medium if I use some heavier heavier weight scrapbook paper, but in general it's just going to be taking little pieces and gluing them down to frame it up. Now I may pull out my scissors to get thinner strips or tear it or whatever, but it is a super simple process. I've framed up all of these cards with just some scrap paper bits. I am moving to a little bit of a messier thing. I have a plate here with primary colors of paint, and these are cosmetic sponges that I'm going to use through some stencils. So I've got some smaller stencils. I've already got a little station here with some paper underneath my card, and I'm just going to real quick pick a color for each of these cards. I don't want to mix 2 of them, probably. That could change if things get kind of messy, but I'm going to just pick an area and stencil anywhere on the card that kind of needs a little added interest. The primary color stencils have dried on these. I'm going to go back through them real quick with just some black and white paint and some more stencils just to give them a little more contrast. Just a couple more steps and these will be done. And actually you could leave these just as they are, but to give them a real personal touch, I've got these last 2 steps. First, I pulled out my StazOn and some other Distress Oxide ink pads and some stamps. And these are just what I consider texture stamps, things that add just a little bit of interest to things. And I'm going to real quick go through these and just add little touches where they need them. Nothing major. Just run through them real quick and decide what else they might need. The final step for these, for me, is doodling, and that is really just going through each card on its own and adding any little doodles or lines or zigzags or whatever I feel that it needs on each of the cards. And to do that, I just use a variety of pens and pencils and markers. So I've got my little buckets of those here, and we're gonna go to town. So that's it. With those little steps, I have completed these cards, and I've got another set over here waiting to go. I may do those today, I may work on them later, but super simple process, y'all. I hope that you find some way to say thanks and show your gratitude to somebody, whether it's through writing a simple thank you card that you made for them or some other beautiful act of kindness. All right, guys, thanks so much. Bye.